But the biggest topic at hand for beginners is how to get started and what can they do to get started. What happens if they don't have any money? All right, here we are back in the saddle this week. Had a big podcast tour the week before, so excited to be back, but did 4 podcasts, flew into Arizona, then flew out to San Diego, did a podcast with 𝗨H𝗳𝗨𝗹𝗪, so make sure you follow Rich in the 𝗨𝗪s Report. It was a great podcast to be on. Then flew right back to Arizona, did 3 podcasts, one with 𝗨ஹ𝗳𝗨ecie𝗹𝗹𝗪, and then I also shot one with my good buddy 𝗨𝗨𝗨𝗪, and then 𝗨𝗨𝗵𝗍, a realtor that I know down in the space there. So make sure you can follow some of those guys or hit me up on who they are. We'll try to maybe link them below. All good guys down in the Arizona, the Southwest region, and I wanted to get them on my podcast because I think they have a great perspective for what's happening in the market, right? And I wanted to get their perspective on what's happening in the Midwest. They ask as well. So make sure that you go and make sure you're following our podcast. I don't think I'm going to be doing these live anymore. I'm going to rather just be pushing these straight to our podcast, and then you can subscribe on literally Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You find us on YouTube if you want the video version. We're on all those platforms, and make sure you follow us. Make sure you share it with somebody. That's the only way I get this message out. We're literally doing all this for free, just trying to only a message that I really want to get through on real estate, and obviously market updates and different things on how I'm educating myself and just trying to deliver to you guys in a very consumable small version. So also, there's over 2,800 people on our email subscriber list. This thing's growing like crazy every week. And make sure that you're subscribed to this every Saturday. We put out a podcast every Saturday morning. Literally, it's what I'm learning, how you can minimize the mistakes. If you don't want to pay for our online course, which for a couple $100, guys, you can literally know nothing about real estate and be very dangerous by the end of it, right? And this is like a 2-hour, something you can do on a weekend. So if you're interested in the space, which is a great time right now because of where the market is, make sure you go and buy that course. We're just transferring on how everything looks. If you're interested in the course, just DM me, comment somewhere below, and put the word course. I'll send you a coupon code. You can literally take it, and it can change your life like it has mine. And now I own, over 150 real estate multifamily units, and also over 100,000 square feet of storage and commercial properties that I'm standing in here. So, if you want to learn how I've changed my life in the last 7 years just with real estate and other income sources and businesses, make sure you're on our podcast. Make sure you're subscribed to our email list. I literally put out exactly how I'm doing deals today. I literally just got a deal under contract on Sunday, literally yesterday. So we're doing deals all the time. This is a great market to be doing deals in. You just have to know what you're looking for and underwrite them correctly. So, but the biggest topic at hand for beginners is how to get started and what can they do to get started. What happens if they don't have any money? What happens if they're just looking to buy their first house? Is buying a house the best investment, or should I rent an apartment and buy an investment piece? I always going to tell you that buying a house is never the best investment. You're likely to make 1 to 2% on that thing. Obviously has no chance of producing you revenue unless you do one thing, and that is called house hacking. So this is where actually you're going to buy a bigger house, maybe something, and I've talked to Brandon Turner. He does this today in Maui, in Hawaii. So, he bought I think it was a $2.5 million property in Hawaii. It had 3 units though. It had a main level, had a basement, and had an ADU on the property, meaning another rentable unit, smaller rentable unit on the property. And even Brandon Turner's house hacking, right? Like he's obviously very wealthy. He doesn't need to do this, but at the end of the day, he bought an investment property and he house hacked his way to owning a bigger piece of property. So instead of being able to afford just $150,000 to $250,000 property, and I'm not talking about Brandon Turner in Maui, I'm talking about locally in the Midwest, or maybe a property, whatever market you're in. And maybe you want to buy a bigger property. Well, look for a property where there's opportunity to have multiple units. Maybe it's multiple kitchens, mother, father-in-law's suites. Like, you could see properties set up for that. These are great house hack deals, and it's a way to get into a bigger house and have a smaller or zero payment. So if you're going to be buying a house anyway, I recommend this style over just going to find a single family house where you have zero chance of renting out anywhere in the in the building, because you're going to consume it all, and it's likely just to increase your bills. I think we're at an all-time most unaffordable, like all-time, like right now, like to buy a home is I think it's like $3,000 or $4,000. There's like the biggest spread between renting and buying right now. You're going to have a $3,000 plus payment with a mortgage, or you're going to rent for somewhere in the average of like $1,600 to $1,800. That's a big spread. That's the biggest spread of all time. What's happening? Well, you got investors. They're buying the properties, and they're competing with people like you out there trying to buy your first property or trying to buy your second property. They're out there competing against you, and instead they're renting it out to make it revenue on the deal, and you're renting it out just to make your bills larger, really. So it's hard to compete with those kinds of people, and they're just going to sit on them. Investors going to sit on them and wait for appreciation to happen. And obviously, with investors owning as much as they do, it's upping the value of everything, even when rates are 8% like they are now. So let's just talk, like, what is house hacking? How can this help you? How can you benefit from this? Like, it may seem like overwhelming, like, oh, I was just going to buy a house. It was going to be plain, simple, $200,000. I'm going to have, maybe you need 3.5% down, 5% down, whatever you're doing, very minimal down. And then, hey, I'm just, instead of throwing my money away in rent, I'm going to put it all into this mortgage and build my equity up. Well, that's great, but realize when you're building your equity up, which is likely to take it, if you're not going to own a home for at least 10 years, it makes zero financial, no matter if you make $1 million a year or $20,000 a year, it makes zero sense for you to buy that home. You're likely to lose money on it, and your bills are actually going to be higher while you're in the revenue producing area of your life. So what you want to be doing is thinking about, okay, well, let's look at bigger homes. Let's look at something. Maybe it's a duplex, a triplex, a fourplex. Because remember, anything up to 4 units, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are now lending with 5% down on anything under 4 units or less. Kind of nice. Now it makes you think. It's like, okay, well, I can buy that house for $200,000, but I can buy a fourplex for $400,000. Whatever, right? Like, whatever the cost would be in your market. Obviously, I'm talking Midwest numbers. It could be much different in any other market. But in that type of market, in our market, that's probably what it's going to cost you, ballpark, right? And so then you're like, okay, well, what's the benefit? Well, the benefit is, let's just do a scenario here where, let's say the mortgage is $2,500 on this fourplex. You're going to have, maybe you can rent out each unit for $900. It's a 2-bed, 1-bath deal. Great. So you're going to have monthly expenses of mortgage, which likely you're going to have mortgage, the taxes, the insurance, all in one payment. Let's just consider that $2,500 for now. Example. Let's say you're going to rent them out at $900 a piece. Okay, great. You have income of $2,700. Not bad, right? You're cash flowing. Obviously, there's repairs and other things to figure in, but hey, you're cash flowing. But you would have not moved into this. House hacking would be where you're actually eliminating one of the rents. So now all you have is $1,800 in actual income. But guess what? You have maybe a nicer unit. Maybe you do have your house, and maybe it's big enough for you. Well, guess what? You can minus $2,500 from the $1,800. You're still $700. Still going to owe $700, right? Is that a win or is that a lose? Well, it depends. If you go consider it next to a $200,000 house, maybe that's a $2,500 monthly payment or a $2,000 monthly payment anyway. Plus utilities, plus repairs, you're covering everything, right? So It's the same way. Is it actually cheaper? Are you going to make more money on that $400,000 fourplex, or are you going to make more money on that $200,000 house? And let's just say appreciation works off the main number of the building. If your building appreciates at, let's just say 3%, we'll just leave it modest. Inflation is really high right now, right? So you're going to have about $6,000 in the $200,000 house of appreciation each year. Great, that's awesome. Well, in the fourplex, you're going to have $400,000. So what is that? That's more like $12,000, right? So double the value. That should lift at the same 3% threshold, but you're going to be growing each year. So what's going to happen in the future? So let's say 3 to 4 years from now. Well, you're going to be paying down your mortgage and principal, and you're likely to make a couple percent on that. How about the fourplex? Well, now you have other people paying the mortgage, and guess what? You also have rent growth. So instead of your rent's at $900, maybe in 3 to 5 years they've moved to $1,200, right? And so at $1,200, now you got $1,200, $2,400, $3,600. That's not considering your rent that you're living there. Now you're actually living for zero because you've waited long enough. You let everything rise. Inflation is working its magic. It's increasing rents. But what hasn't changed is your fixed rate loan, right? That loan is fixed at $2,500, likely for 30 years, 25 years, whatever your bank allowed you to. And now you're like, wow, now I'm making money by living here, where the house, likely my bills have just stayed the same. Maybe they've gotten a little bigger, you know what I mean? Like the house, there's zero chance at making you any revenue at all. You're still in the same spot. If you sell it, you're likely going to be underwater because the brokers are going to have to sell it, take a fee, it's closing costs, whatever. You're likely to break even. Where now you're actually net positive on the house. Maybe you can go out and buy another property, or actually go buy a house, at that point in time. So that's why house hacking isn't just that's the main benefit of having house hacking. You're reducing your expenses, and then guess what? Even if you're paying a little bit of rent at the beginning, who cares? In 3 to 5 years, you're likely to it's going to turn the table. Your rent's going to, instead of paying $700 of rent to yourself in your living expenses, which you're already reducing your living expenses, you're likely in the future to have zero or net cash positive, right? Depends how long you hold onto the property. And hell, you might move out of the property and fill it with the last tenant and have a cash flowing property. You'll be miles ahead where you were buying just the house. So that is literally house hacking and some of the math behind it, but reduce the living expenses. Now you get to be a landlord. You also get to write off things because you're a property manager, right? You need a cell phone, laptop, maybe a vehicle to go get things. All your daily expenses, now you can write them off towards the income. So now you're actually losing money and you're a mini business owner, but on paper you're losing money, but actually you're actually making money. So from the property, right? So you're able to write off things that you wouldn't be able to write off before, and I'm talking about write off, from your income. And then of course the tax advantages. This $400,000 fourplex will depreciate. It's likely it's going to go over 27.5 years. So every year you're going to get depreciating. Well, guess what is super cool about real estate? It may depreciate every year at 27.5 years, but guess what happens? It actually appreciates in value. That's the secret. How do you get to write off something that's actually going up in value? Kind of magical, really. So the biggest reason you'll ever find to invest in real estate, and why millionaires, billionaires, the wealthiest people I know invest in real estate, is literally just the tax advantages. Yes, passive income's good. Yes, the appreciation is good. Those are not the reasons though. So always think about that. And so yeah, that was number one, really all the benefits to house hacking. Why would you do it? And number two, how do you really get started then? It's really just saying to yourself, okay, because the bank's going to take the rental income in consideration, right? Instead of your just debt to income. Now the bank might be, more hesitant in a time like this, but they're going to consider that rental income to be something, right? They have to. And the financial planning for yourself, it's make sure your credit score is basically above 680, you'll be just fine. Make sure you have 5% for the down payment, or 3.5%, depends if you're going FHA or if you're going Fannie or Freddie. And that's really all you need. You don't even need to wait. And most times, like when you're buying in a market like right now, you can negotiate that with a seller. Be like, hey, I don't have 5% down, but I'll pay you what you want for the property, and it's been sitting on the market, but guess what? I need you to cover my closing costs and my down payment. Likely you're going to get the deal. You're going to pay a little more, but guess what? You're going to get into that property and you don't really care, because your payment's going to be cut probably in half or less than half, right? If you've done your math right. This works in duplex or triplexes or whatever, anything that's under 4 units. So don't be scared of that. You know, financing them, obviously, like we said, we get FHAs, just get lower down payments, so don't be scared to work that into your offer. Like, you can put an offer on a property, it doesn't mean you're going to get it, right? But if that seller's been sitting on the property, he's like, hey, all I got to do is give this guy an extra like 15 grand for closing, and he's going to give me my the price I'm asking. Geez, I might do that deal just because I've been sitting on it, and I don't want to deal with it anymore, right? You got 10,000 baby boomers retiring each day, so just think about it. They want to retire and they're tired. They don't want to deal with this. So, you know, understand your market that you're in, right? Like, I know, like, this might seem unreasonable for a $400,000, you know, fourplex if you're living in San Francisco, right? It's probably going to be $3 million. But, you know, understand the market. Understand how to underwrite, and like I said, I have a course on literally, I'll give you the spreadsheets and how I underwrite it. It's, you know, you can do it in a weekend, you can educate yourself, and you can literally change the entire path of your whole life. You can change literally your entire path of your life, literally with one property. Now, what happens if you did one per year? Or, you know, some people are doing one a month, some people are doing one a week. It's just, you know, put it in perspective for yourself. Just get one done, right? Like, I promise you, you do one like this, you'll be like, I may hold on to that thing. That thing may pay for, if you're young enough, you're 21 doing that, 22, that thing may pay for your kids' college education. Like, that's what I did, right? I ended up helping them with an 8-plex. We're going to refinance it in 10 years. Probably likely to pull out a couple $100,000. I'm going to give that to kids for college, you know, or whatever education they'll do. You know, just one property though. Just think about one and do it and hold on to it. And so understand each market's different. Like I said, I have my course. You can underwrite it, use all the stuff that I use for underwriting. You know, obviously you got legal considerations just to make sure that, you know, you don't want to get into legal trouble. You should be a property management company. You're going to own a company, so you're really going to be putting your big boy shorts on, and you're going to be taking care of, you know, more or less petty problems, but could be a big problem, right? Could be expensive, so you want to make sure you underwrite correctly. And then number 3, you know, really you want to choose a location. So, you know, figure out where you can, you know, don't buy the most if this is a $400,000 property in San Francisco, it's probably condemned, right? Like, so you want to make sure that since you're renting out the property anyway, like, find it in a good neighborhood. Find it where there's like decent appreciation potentials, right? Like, you don't want to be, you know, in the suburbs of Michigan where it's very run down, it's very cheap, and you might be able to get rent, because you're gonna have problems collecting rent. You're gonna have Class D tenants. You just don't want to deal with that. Not out of the gate. Make sure it's in your backyard, it's in your market, you understand your market, you understand the good areas of your market, and you understand the areas that rent better. There's reports, I promise you, in your market. Just search for them. Call a broker, he'll be able to tell you what reports he looks at. Just figure it out. And make sure, you know, then you want to check conditions. This is no different than buying a home, right? Do a home inspection, make sure the condition of the property is ready to go. Hey, maybe there's a chance where you can renovate some units, whether it's weekends, nights, and instead of that $900 rent, you just get it with bare bones. It could be 70s product. Hey, maybe I can put a few $1,000s or whatever and some sweat and blood into the unit and get $1,200 a month, right? Like, so I'm always looking for value add deals like that. And if you're on your own, you have the time, your time, you know, your money's more valuable than your time, then, you know, this is a great way to build, you know, some equity. And obviously a great way to increase rents, which is always our goals as landlords, investors, property owners, whatever. And number 4, so financing, I just want to go through the few different ways. You could have a VA loan, right? 0 down. If you're a veteran, you can qualify for a VA loan, 0 down. I literally just bought a property that I assumed a VA loan on in Scottsdale. And I'll come out with some more information on that. Went under contract yesterday. But a VA loan, VAs don't have to put anything down. That's just a loan that's qualified for them. But you can assume it and not being a VA. So we'll talk about that more. I'll have some more information for you guys as I get through the process on this one. 2, you can have a conventional loan that's 80-20, right? Like that's fine. But understand that if you're at this point, house hacking, like you're probably going to wind up FHA, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, 5% down or as low as 3.5% down. And like I said, in most of these loans, under 4 units, like literally ask the seller. In this market, you can ask the seller to pay that for you. You might have to give a little higher price, but hey, at least you don't have to come with any money down. You can keep your money to renovate the units or improve the property and increase rents. So 5, managing the property. So just like I said before, opening a business. You can, maybe you don't have a business. Well, you should have a business because like I said, you can write off cell phones, computers, laptops, freaking anything you can think of, your car, the gas, whatever. You're going to be renovating units. You're going to have costs, right? And then you're going to have a tenant, probably a portal, or maybe you just do it off Excel spreadsheet. However you do it, you're going to need a small QuickBooks. You're going to learn all these other skills, which are very easy to do. It just makes you a mini business owner. It'll make you understand how to run a small business on the side. And guess what? You can collect the rents, you can pay all the expenses, you can write off some of your, whatever you need to get the projects done within the property. You can also write off your phone and, you just get all these benefits owning a business. Business owners get the best, business owners and investors get the best write-offs, and you get both. Literally, you could do a deal today for 0 down. Just put offers in. Don't be scared to not put an offer in. Just put an offer in, what you need to shape the deal to make it work for you. And 6, so maximizing your investment. So like I said, value add these things, do strategic updates. Maybe it could be a small dog park, or it could be, an eating area. Maybe you're the king fourplex of all. You got like a community hot tub. I don't really know. There's many ways that you can attract tenants and increase rents. I'm not going to go through them all here. Improving units, of course, painting, keeping the properties clean. Will not only keep your building more occupied, but it'll also bring a higher quality tenant. And number 7, really you got challenges. You're going to have challenges and solutions through this. So you're going to be dealing with tenants, the termites, the toilets, right? Like you hear about all the bad stuff. You know what? If you have a decent property, you take care of it well. You take care of it like your own, because it is your own, and you're on the property. Likely you're going to have tenants that understand the way you work and what you expect. No different than if you have employees that work underneath you, or if someone was coming to visit you at your own property, they know what your rules are. You should be very explicit with those. Every property has its rules, and it's going to make you better as a person dealing with people, dealing with problems, because these are very petty problems. I mean, you could talk about the sink, an outlet doesn't work, whatever, these are very petty problems most of the time, right? Sometimes you get the big thing, like a furnace went out, or a pipe froze in the wall in the Midwest, right? Because we get extreme cold in North Dakota. There's just things that can happen, and especially in older buildings and older fourplexes, of course, that can happen. So, you might be up in the middle of the night on the phone with a plumber trying to get this coordinated because you don't know what to do. But it's going to build you better as a person to deal with these kinds of problems. Promise me, as you go forward, move forward, you don't have to be your property manager. I thought I wanted to do property management. I did it for 1.5 years. It wasn't for me. It would consume too much of my time. Obviously, we had 150 units. It was plus some commercial and storage tenant. It was a lot to handle for myself, and I never did property management at that scale. That is very different than owning just 4 or 5 units, right? Like, you can do this by yourself. You could probably manage up to 30 tenants by yourself. And this is just a side hustle, right? You're doing your daytime job. You're making money somewhere else. So, but it's going to teach you specific things that you need to learn. Even if you hire a property manager to do it, you're going to learn specific ways that you want things done. And you know, I always ask people, you know, is there 2024 a good time to buy? Because, you know, they're going to look at a home, right? And they're like, okay, you can rent a home, or you can buy a home, right? Or you can do this other thing called house hacking. And I don't care. You could be, you know, millennials are the ones trying to buy homes now, my age. You know, I think they're low 40s to mid-early 30s, and that's where it ends. But there's just 2 different routes you can take here, right? You can go buy the house. It'll generate 0 net worth, because guess what? Your home is not built into your net worth. Even if you have it paid for, it could be $1 million home that was paid for. When the bank pulls your personal financial statement, they do not consider your primary residence to be part of your net worth. You need to start growing your net worth. And I'm telling you, if you were to do a house hack, I wish I would have done it when I was 20. You know what? I didn't, but I want to teach everyone young on here, or you could be middle 30s too, to do this now. Like, this is the time to be doing it. 2024 is literally a great time that you can get a contract on a property. Guess what? There's all this fear in the market. Interest rates are 8%. They're not likely to go much higher, right? They could go to 8.25%, 8.5%, whatever. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't. Underwrite the property to what current debt is, which the property values have came down, and they're going to have to stay down. Otherwise, why would you buy the deal, right? Like, you're only going to buy it if you can lower your living expenses, and over time, 3 to 5 years, hopefully your living expenses are 0, or hopefully you're even living in a unit and getting paid each month. Like, how powerful would that be? Plus, you get all these expenses to write off as a new property manager. And you know what? Hopefully you're paying less tax than your W-2 income, because that is the highest tax you could possibly pay in life. So I always tell everyone, you know, the 2 biggest people in life that minimize their taxes are investors and business owners. You know, take advantage. With literally, a 20-year-old could do this, 1 house hack. Do 1 a year if you want to get aggressive. Like I said, people are doing 1 a month. So hopefully this message hit home for a few people. This is the best time to buy. If you want to get educated, like I said, DM me or comment the word course. I'll send you a coupon code so you can go take advantage of that, and you know, could change your entire life trajectory, literally, just owning some of these different investment properties over just owning a home. So thank you guys, appreciate it. We'll see you in the next one.